All right, the time has come. My favorite segment is here. I'm putting Reggie on the hot seat, covering all the latest hot topics in Minnesota sports called What Does It Mean? Reggie, you ready?
Let's do it.
With a new head coaching staff, the Vikings have a mix of new faces and returning veterans that will bring highly competitive position battles come training camp. When looking at the wide receiver group specifically, what does it mean when projecting the odd man out from the group? As it stands today, I mean, I look at the list, I see six, maybe seven legitimate players who could make the cut. However, most teams, of course, only carry around five heading into the season. Is there one big name that you think, man, might be the odd man out here? Because they're not keeping all seven, if not even eight guys from this receiving core.
Well, I guess the question would be, who do you consider to be a quote unquote big name?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Well,
um,
for me, BC Johnson was coming. He was coming up pretty strong the first 2 years with
yeah,
Kirk Cousins. Had some good rapport before KJ Osborne. It was BC Johnson was the wide receiver three. Now I
yeah,
took some heat a few weeks ago on Twitter saying he was cemented, he was supplanted as wide receiver three. All right, maybe a little bit too strong of remarks there, but for sure a great number four, if not a really solid number three until we develop KJ Osborne. But I'm looking at this. Amir Smith-Marset, Dan Chisna probably makes the team for special teams. Blake Prohl, yeah, definitely a bubble guy, but Jalen Naylor was brought in as a draft pick. He's for sure
yeah,
probably going to make the team. BC Johnson, I think, could be the odd man out when just a year and a half ago, he was getting wide receiver three reps and producing at a pretty strong level there.
yeah. I think he'll be in the mix with
Mm-hmm.
Smith Marset for wide receiver four. KJ
Mm-hmm.
Osborne has arrived, if you will, and he's
Yeah.
only going to be better next season. So the top three are set.
Mm-hmm.
JJ, Thielen, Osborne. And then when you kind of look at it, they're going to keep Naylor around. They, drafted him. And so, they're going to continue to see what he does. I don't anticipate he'll get a whole lot of looks, but if you look at what the Rams did, they really mixed it up with a lot of their receivers. Um, I'm trying to think of how to pronounce the guy's name, number 18 with the Rams. I think it's like Skoronik or something like that from
Mm,
Notre Dame. Like people were like, who? Like when you got Van Jefferson and
right.
OBJ
Right.
and Cooper Cup and all these guys, and you're just like, you're playing him?
Right.
Like who is that? And so I think, BC Johnson coming back from injury, Blake Prohl coming back from injury. I'm not sure really what to think about Blake, but I think the top guys, will continue to be JJ, Thielen, Osborne, Smith Marset, Johnson, Naylor. That's six. So it's like
Mhm.
pick your poison at seven.
Again, anytime a new coaching staff regime comes in, you can't just assume the guys that are returning are just automatic locks. I mean, Dan Chisna was brought on to be this special teams kind of ace. He's been a good gunner at times. He runs that 4.3240. Maybe he'll get a mix in the punt return job, when that all shakes out during training camp. But he was a guy that I kind of penciled in to be special teams guy. But, just looking at the raw numbers again, how are you going to keep seven receivers? I don't think you can do it. Dan Chisna may be on the way out, or at least practice squad eligible. Blake Prohl as well there. But special teams comes into such a huge factor when it comes to these bubble guys. Who's going to stick out during training camp on special teams, whether it be being a punt returner, being a gunner, being able to again, just provide some sort of value outside of your main position, outside of receiver. That's going to be huge. Again, Jalen Naylor got a good track history of being a return man at Michigan State, both punt and kick returns. So he should have a good edge and leg up on the competition there as well. Going to be interesting, though, to see how many receivers they actually end up keeping. All right, next one up. The Celtics are one game away from the finals after a 93-80 victory. More stifling defense, limiting the Heat to just 80 points and 82 points, respectively, their last two games. What does it mean for the Heat now, who have been just a shell of themselves the last two games, to now rally back and win two straight? What's the more accurate summary here? Celtics rising up big to the occasion, or the Heat suddenly collapsing?
I know that it feels like a collapse, but
Still
I
close.
don't I don't
Yeah.
think I don't think Jimmy is 100%, And I think them not being with Tyler Hero is a pretty big blow to them as far as like their shooting and being able to keep up with a good shooting team like the Celtics. That being said, I don't think either team really shot all that well in that last game. It was like a throwback. You had people talking about that was like a throwback to like 2006 Eastern Conference with the low scoring affair. I looked up, I was like, is this 64-58 toward the end of the third? What am I watching? Like what year is this? Did we just flash back to, back then when they were, Eastern Conference Finals with LeBron and the Cavs against the Pistons, or any one of those teams that you want to throw out there in the Eastern Conference back in the mid 2000s? Like, that was brutal. But, I think what is probably indicative of this series is just how lopsided it's been on either side going back and forth. And so I totally expect this next game for the Heat to come out and probably blow the Celtics out. That's just like how this series has been going. I've long contended that this series is going 7. And I don't know if the Heat really have what it takes to win 2 in a row. But I do think that they will come back and win game 6 and take it to 7, and then probably Boston closes it out from there.
Yeah, that Eastern Conference going into the play was so tight. So many teams differentiated by 1, 2, 3 games heading into the playoffs. But injuries have been kind of the quiet theme here. I mean, you got Joel Embiid was banged up with the thumb. Chris Middleton, right, for the Bucks. That was a key piece the Bucks were missing. Kyle Lowry, I mean, he's played the last few games, but he's been a shell of himself as well. I think he went 0 for 6 last night, something like 5 of 23 in the series. Jimmy Butler's got a sore leg. And then you mentioned it, Tyler Hero. He's been out the last 2 games as well. I think that'll be a key factor if he can, not just playing in game 6, but being a factor in that game 6, because certainly injuries have played a huge factor throughout all of the Eastern Conference playoffs, but specifically in this series, Heat really taking one on the chin now. Just can't seem to stay healthy at the right time.